In this lecture, we're going to really get to the heart of what we've been talking about for this whole first chapter. We're going to see what the implications of this floating point machine rounding business are on some arithmetic operations. We're going to see some of the potential pitfalls that you can run into when you're doing arithmetic this way. So first, I'm going to start off by just letting x be a number, a number of arbitrary precision, and this FL of x, FL thing floating point, and FL of x is the machine representation of that number arrived at through chopping, rounding, whichever method your operating system uses. And I'm going to store that in this number x sub m for the m. Think about the m representing machine number, right? So I'm taking a real world value and converting it into something your computer can store. So we're going to find the errors here exactly the same way the science people do. If you're taking a physics, chemistry, maybe biology class, the error is just the difference between the exact value and the approximation. The absolute error is the magnitude, or the absolute value of that number, and the relative error is the absolute error divided by the exact value. So before we go any further and look at some specific examples, I wanted to find 4 more arithmetic operations, right? The plus, minus, times, and division with a circle around it, those are going to represent floating point arithmetic. It's arithmetic done on machine numbers that we've arrived at through this floating point function. And you can see here how these are defined. We take the 2 inputs, convert them to their floating point equivalents. We do the sum or whatever the operation we're doing is, then take that result and convert it to its floating point equivalent, right? So with that said, let's look at some examples of how these things work, and we'll see some interesting consequences here. So first, I'm going to assume we're doing 5-digit rounding with these numbers. Yes, that makes this a bit of a toy situation. Your operating systems are obviously going to go out way further than that, but I don't want to get bogged down in some really nasty, ugly decimals, right? Just doing this 5-digit rounding example is going to be enough for us to see what the issues are, and that really is the goal here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 fractions, 5/7 and 3/11. And I've converted them to their 5-digit equivalents using rounding, right? And these are the results that I get. So if we do 5/7 minus 3/11, I get this, and I keep wanting to say this is the exact value. Obviously, this isn't the exact value, right? Any value that I write down is going to ultimately involve some rounding, although I do have the ellipses there, it's a repeating fraction. When I say in the context of this lecture the exact value, what I'm referring to is a value that has significantly more precision than our, significantly more accuracy than our floating point rounded results. Okay, now with that in mind, let's come over here and do the floating point version. Right, to do the floating point version, I start by taking the 5-digit rounded values of 5/7 and 3/11. That's the second line here. I do the subtraction and then do the 5-digit rounding version of that number. And this is where I end up. Okay, 0.44156. Now, so let's think about the errors. Right, the absolute error here is quite small. 1.558 times 10 to the negative 6. And the relative error is less than 1,000th of a percentage, which is pretty darn good, right? Yeah, I mean that's certainly something we can live with. We can't reasonably expect exact, right? That's the whole point of the exercise. But that's quite reasonable, right? So this is kind of established that we can get reasonable results even with this kind of rounding business. Okay, let's look at another example. So I've got another example for us here, and it's very similar to the last one. I'm going to start with 5/7 again, but this time for my second number, I'm going to do 0.71426, which is a machine number in our 5-digit rounding scenario. So I want to do the same calculation. I want to look at their difference. And so the nominally exact value is this, 0.0000257143, and so on. And our floating point version is this thing. That's what, 3 times 10 to the negative 5th? Okay, so let's look at our errors and see what happens. The absolute error, not bad. 4.286 times 10 to the negative 6th. But it's the relative error where things get problematic. The relative error is substantially bigger at 16.67%. Okay, so what happened here? The problem is that the two original numbers are very close to each other. When we have a situation like that, and you specifically when you subtract, and you can see in the result down here, you lose a lot of significant digits, right? We went from 5 in the original numbers down to 1 in the difference. That's what's causing this huge jump in the relative error. Okay, so let's take a look at another example. Using our two good numbers here, 5/7 and 3/11, the numbers that gave us a very accurate result originally. And I've added a second number, right? I've added 0.000022, and the twos just keep repeating. So the floating point version of that in our 5-digit scheme is going to be 2 times 10 to the negative 5th. So what I want to think about here is what happens when I take the two fractions, subtract them, and then multiply. All right, so if I do that using, again, the nominally exact values, I get 9.89 more or less times 10 to the negative 6th. And if I do the floating point version, I end up with this. I end up with 1 times 10 to the negative 5th. That's actually 0.00001. That's the smallest number, smallest positive decimal number that we can manage in our system here. So again, let's look at the errors. The absolute error, not bad at all. 1.875 times 10 to the negative 7th. The relative error, once again, is problematic. And now we're just short of 2%, which granted isn't as bad as 16%, but it's still certainly less than desirable. So again, what happened? Well, I took a perfectly good result and multiplied it by a very small number, a number that was kind of right on the edge of what our system was capable of managing, and that generated this error, right? Again, primarily through a loss of significant digits. So, what we saw here, most problems are going to have minimal error. Right? Most problems are going to be perfectly reasonable for us, and unless you're doing something that for some reason requires a super high level of accuracy. Where we're going to run into trouble is with subtraction of numbers that are very close together, and in situations where we're multiplying by very small numbers or dividing by very large numbers. Hopefully you realize that's essentially the same thing, right? In all three of those situations, you need to be concerned. And we didn't see this here. There's actually going to be some problems that show this if you're following along on the website. But this problem compounds. If you have a situation where you subtract two numbers that are very close and then multiply them by something that's very small, the problem gets worse every time. And that is a concern in some of the algorithms we're going to be looking at. When we talk about linear algebra, for example, in your high school algebra classes, maybe a college algebra class, you learn about something called Gaussian elimination or the addition method for solving systems of linear equations. That method involves a lot of multiplying by scale factors and a lot of adding all of the values of different rows together. That's a situation that's almost custom made for at least where you should be worried about this kind of thing happening. When we get to that, we're going to talk about some pivoting strategies. You'll see some things that we can do to help to minimize this, right? To make it less likely that we accidentally stumble across these issues. Now, with all of this said, I do want to be clear. These situations are, unless you're doing something where you're regularly working with very small numbers, or numbers that are for some reason very close to each other. These situations are very rare. In 25 plus years of doing stuff with computers, I've literally only seen this happen in the wild one time. So it's not something that you need to be hugely concerned about every time you're coming up with some algorithm, but these are situations that you need to be aware of, right? Because they are the kind of thing that you can stumble over and they can be hard to catch, right? Because you really have to start digging in and looking at intermediate steps and seeing what the numbers are doing. This is the last lecture in this chapter on computer number systems. In the next section, we're going to start digging into our first real problem-solving topic. We're going to take a look at something that sounds really simple: solving equations. Right? By this point in your career, you probably learned scores of methods for solving all sorts of different types of equations. But there are still a lot of types of equations that can't be solved by those methods. And we're going to spend the next chapter looking at different techniques for coming up with approximate solutions.